What the SEO? Are you wondering what that even means or whether it even applies to your handmade artisan business? Well, today I'm going to be going through some of the key aspects of SEO, which is search engine optimization, that you may not know about, and also give you a bit of an introduction about what it is and how you can leverage it to gain more visibility with your creations. So what on earth is SEO even all about? Now, you may have heard the term, and as I mentioned, it's search engine optimization, but it's essentially how Google finds your creations that you're making or finds your store. And it's through the words when it comes to SEO, because it's all about the words that you have in every part of your website or every part of your product or every part of your store if you're in a marketplace as well. There are two key parts to SEO, and it's really about how Google finds you, but also how your products and your creations are found within a website or within a marketplace, say if you're selling on a platform like Handmade. So I'm going to go into those first, just so that you can understand how that works. Now, when we talk about Google coming to find you, right? Google is crawling all of the websites constantly to try and find the keywords so that it can match it up to someone's search. So that's how the search engine optimization is working for Google. Now, when we talk about on a marketplace or on your website, that relates to the little search box. And it's one of the most commonly used ways that customers are using once they're on a site to find what they're looking for. So it's where they'll start typing in red beanie, and straight away that's going to start giving them those options. There are 6 key areas in which SEO will work for you in your handmade business. And one of them I'm sure you may not be aware of as well. But first and foremost, of course, it's your product title, because that's how Google's going to understand what it is exactly that you're selling. And the same way that within a website or a marketplace, that's the way the customer is searching. So it's really important that you take the time to create a title that makes sense. Now, of course, like always, there's that fine line between having a great SEO title and just having like a really long-winded title that goes on for 4 or 5 rows, and which is in fact going to impact how your product looks online. So with the title of the product, that's where you want to make sure that you've actually got keywords in the title of your product that tells the customer what it is. Now, this is also for accessibility as well. If you've got customers that are actually listening to what it is rather than seeing it as well, that's a great thing to keep in mind. But for an example, let's say you'd created a beautiful oil painting and you might have called that oil painting Abstract Flowers number 7. Now, Google can't understand what that is. You really need to be making sure that you've got original oil painting with abstract flowers as a suggestion for the name. So you want to keep that in mind about how it's going to be searched. What is the customer looking for? The next aspect is looking at what you put in the description. And the first 2 to 3 lines are the most important part of the description. So you want to make sure that that is jam-packed with the description of what your product is. Now, let's say for an example, you've made a beautiful handmade pamper pack, and that might be suited for Mother's Day, or it might be a special gift for mum or the special woman in your life. If you put those in those 2 to 3 sentences, that it's a gift, it's a pamper pack, and who it's suited for, that is great, juicy SEO that Google is going to be able to pick up in order to be able to show those customers your creations. Your URL is also going to get searched by Google, and that's how part of the crawling starts as well. So again, you want to make sure that you're mindful of what is in your URL. Now, one of the things that I often see pop up is that people or artists have used special characters in their titles that then end up going into their URL. Now, that might be like an ampersand, or perhaps it's a hashtag. Now, any of those sort of special symbols are actually seen as a bit of a negative when it comes to your URL. So you want to make sure that you're fixing up your URL to make sure it doesn't have any of those special characters in there, and it makes sense about what your actual product is. A really easy way to add information about your product is to add product tags that make sense. Now, with your product tags, again, they work in 2 different ways. They're going to be picked up by Google in that search functionality, but they're also going to be will help with the search if you're thinking about within a website, right? Or within a marketplace, that when you type it in, it might bring up those product tagged items. Now, my hot tip here is with your product tags is make sure that it's specifically suited. Now, let's say for an example, if you've got a custom product and it could be really customized for any occasion, if you've got all of those occasions tagged into your product, it's almost like it works the opposite of showing up. It's almost like there's a confusion about, well, what is this product? And then it doesn't end up showing up within those searches. So just be mindful when you're adding those key product tags. The meta description is what shows up on your product when you do a search. So you can actually try searching this with one of your products, right? If you get a specific title of your product and you put buy and have your artist name in there and do a search, you'll see that there's a little description that shows up in your Google search. Now that's the meta description. Now, depending on where you're selling, what platform you're using, you may have the option to be able to actually change that meta description. And that's where you can put, like, again, this would be the perfect gift for. This may be a beautiful artisan piece for your home. You can really put that in and have some fun with the meta description. And it really adds that decision making when a customer's looking and they see a beautiful description. It gives them that prompt to actually click on the product as well. This last method for improving your SEO is one that you may not have heard of, and it's actually renaming your image and your video files in order for them to make sense with your product. Now, often when we've got our photos, let's say you're selling a product, and of course, I know you've got more than one image. I know you've got at least 3, 5, 7, right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go over and pop it and check the video that I just did last week about how many images you need to sell online. But anyway, with those wonderful 7 images, what you want to do is, rather than loading them up with, say, like a generic image file, which might be image 75832 or something, you actually want to go in and rename those files. And this is where you can make them actually quite long. Now, this might be, you want to put in there original dash wall dash painting dash made dash, with all the dashes in between, in Australia by whatever your artist name is. And you can actually have that as your image file name. And so the same way in which Google is crawling the site and will be going through the description and the title, it will also crawl through the name of the images. So it's a wonderful opportunity to really boost those up and put in those key search terms that people are looking for. Throughout this whole video, I've spoken about what customers are searching for. Now, the tricky thing is that you may not know what customers are searching for. So I want to suggest a tool that I use regularly. I absolutely love it. And the free version is actually really good as well. And it's Ubersuggest by Neil Patel. Now, he is an absolute marketing genius, and he's built this really simple platform where you can go through and actually get a good understanding of what people might be looking for. Now, what you can do, and I'll show you quickly how to do this, but you go in, you got to create an account. But I love using this keyword section. I think it's super powerful for you to be able to put in what it is specifically that you're creating, and also it gives you suggestions of what else might work. So let's jump in for a second. And if I go, I'm going to have a look for handmade Christmas decorations. Now, when I pop that in, it shows me the actual search volume that is within Australia. And you might like to, depending on what country you're in, set it to your country to understand the search volume. And then if we go into this other area where it gives you ideas, this is where Neil Patel, or Ubersuggest, is giving you other suggestions for actually what might work for you within that category, and other ideas that you may not have thought of. So this is a great tool to use. You get 2 to 3 searches, I think, a day, so that you can do this. So if you did that every day for a month, you'd have a great idea of exactly what you need to be putting in your product titles, your descriptions, your image names, your meta description, your product tags, and it's really going to amplify what you're doing online. The key thing to remember with SEO though is that this is a technique that takes time. It's not something that you're necessarily going to see instant results from. Now you may, when it comes to actually being searchable within, say, a marketplace or within a website, that may be a great place to start. But really, when we're talking about the strategy of SEO, it's something that takes time, because with Google crawling, if you can imagine how many websites there are to crawl, that it's not done every day. So it means that you've got to allow a bit of space and time for this SEO to actually kick in. When it comes to thinking about an SEO strategy, I think that you need to remember that it's part of everything else that you're doing. If you're fairly new to selling online, my biggest suggestion to you would be to focus on your imagery first. If there is one thing that will really change the impact on your sales, it's having beautiful imagery. So hold on, I'm going to add on to that and work on your titles. Let's do those two things there, and I think you'll really start to see a huge difference. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you could like the video, if you could subscribe to the channel, put on those notifications, because each week we're sharing tips and tricks with you so that you can really simplify and amplify your journey online.